Last video of the week. Come on.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Big weekend.
Sort of, yeah.
Still with videos.
Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of the week it is. It's Friday. It is mandatory, once again, to get down on Friday, because that means it's time to talk about all 10 of my wrestlers of the week. You know the score. Wrestling's weird, isn't it? Because big sections of every industry in the world almost are being shut down, and wrestling just keeps on trucking. Debatable whether it should or not, but you know, there's points to give out, so that's good at least. Now, before we get into the meat of my top 10, we're going to talk about some honourable mentions. I struggled to think of honourable mentions this week. There was a match that I really wasn't a fan of, which I'll talk about later on, don't worry about that, to use as contrast to a match that I did enjoy. But in terms of like honourable mentions, Vanguard won, and Chris Jericho for having the feud of the year so far. Why not? Why not give it to Vanguard 1? In fact, not even Jericho, just Vanguard 1. Vanguard 1 is my honourable mention of the week. Now, let's get on with the top 10. Number 10, everybody dies. Boom, that's a ring remember down. That's Marco Stunt down. Lance Archer is my number 10 this week. He just does something, he gets me fired up. Gets the people going. Yeah, Lance Archer made his in-ring debut on Dynamite this week. It wasn't a long match, but my God, was it an entertaining one. He absolutely squashed Marco Stunt. It was brilliant. He's obviously a very big man. Marco Stunt's a very small man. Put those two together, it's absolute magic. It's absolute scenes in the wrestling ring. And I'm really relieved to see that a lot of Lance Archer's character from New Japan has carried over into AEW without being diluted. Because if you're familiar with Archer in New Japan, he storms out, he's spraying water everywhere, he punches out a couple of young lions, scares a few members of the crowd, gets in the ring, and usually does horrible things to his opponent. And that is basically what we saw here. It's just simple, but effective. And also, of course, he has the backing of Jake the Snake Roberts, who cut a great promo on the Tron before this match, and also hyped that future match with Cody that Lance Archer so desperately wants, and that Jake so desperately wants as well. In fact, Jake probably wants it more than Lance Archer does, to be honest. But that match with Cody's a strange one, because before that, we now know that Lance Archer is in the TNT Championship tournament in the first round against Colt Cabana. I think Colt Cabana's going to win. No, I don't, that's a lie. Lance Archer has that match against Colt. He'll progress in the tournament when he definitely wins that match. And to be honest, the way that they're pushing him, I don't know if anyone's going to beat him. And because he's got this match with Cody in the future, does that mean he and Cody are going to meet in the final and have a different match? Or does this mean that they're not going to meet in the final and still have their match another time? I don't know what's really going on here, but I'm excited because I'm a fan of Lance Archer, and I think he's big and entertaining and strong and scary. Number 2, now, if you are one of those people who just desperately loves Jim Cornette and wants to get with him every day and every night, then you will not enjoy this pick. My number 9 this week is Marco Stunt. Yeah, Stunt's coming from a lot of criticism from those sort of types online. Maybe not even necessarily Cornette himself, I'm not sure, but people who try to be like Jim Cornette really hate Marco Stunt because he's small and there's no realistic way he can blah, blah, blah. It's so stupid, man. It's wrestling. It's actually wrestling. Marco Stunt is fantastic in the ring, I think anyway, especially when he's matched up with someone like Lance Archer. And I know I only give Archer 1 point this week, but I'm giving Marco Stunt 2, because sometimes in wrestling, your job is to make your opponent look like a beast. And if you needed Lance Archer to look any more of a beast somehow, Marco Stunt found a way to do that. Stunt is phenomenal, man. He's so good at this. Just by being small, jumping around, selling his arse off, bumping his arse off at any given opportunity. That pounce where he clipped his head on the bottom rope and just span under the ring. Oh man, it was so entertaining. And then after the match, the punishment wasn't even over. He gets chokeslammed off the apron into the crowd, knocks over Orange Cassidy and Billy Gunn. I'm sold. Marco Stunt. If I was a booker and I was booking any kind of big monster guy to come in and make a big impression on his debut, the first person I would put him up against would be Marco Stunt if he was a heel. Maybe even if he was a babyface. Who cares? Oh, Marco is very, very good. I don't know what else to say about this really though, because it was a very short match. It was just perfect for what it was. It was one of the most entertaining squash matches I've ever seen, and a lot of that was down to Marco Stunt. Also, he's a really good singer, and if you search Marco Stunt Jericho Cruz sing, or something along those lines, you'll see him singing Sunglasses at Night alongside Fozzy, and he rocks the show, everyone. Sounds such like a granddad there. Next up, picking up 3 points this week, it's none other than the Impact World Champion, the first ever female Impact World Champion, of course. It's Tessa Blanchard. Tessa picked up a solid victory in the main event of Impact this week, defeating Ethan Page, and it was just a solid, good match. This week, because there's less wrestling going on around the world, I'm not going to be springing like some kind of strange German death match onto you, or weird like Japanese six-man tag that blew everyone's minds because there was less wrestling. And sometimes all you need is a solid, strong performance and a good win to get on Wrestlers of the Week, and that's what Tessa Blanchard did this week. But it wasn't as straightforward as I may have made it seem there, because she did defeat Ethan Page, but she had to do so while being kind of distracted and picked at by Ethan Page's tag partner, Alexander, on the outside of the ring. That's Josh Alexander, by the way. I'm not just on first name terms with him. No, Alexander's his surname. Josh Alexander, who along with Ethan Page is one half of the Impact Tag Team Champions currently. But yes, they were both bested by the Impact World Champion right now, Tessa Blanchard. But she needed a bit of a helping hand as well from fellow babyface Eddie Edwards, who pretty much evened the odds and helped her win, and then they chased the heels off and stood tall at the end of the show. And it's just classic stuff. It's one of those weeks. That's all you need to get on the league table sometimes, and Tessa's done that job. Not so much a sneaky Roderick Strong tactic as just a middle of the road, oh, I guess I'll get on the list. It's very nonchalant, very casual. Who's been like that in Wrestlers of the Week history? Let's have a think. Give me a second. I know who's been like that. Kazuchika Okada. You'd think he'd top the table a lot more than he actually does. And I feel like Okada's been he's had quite a casual relationship with Wrestlers of the Week, and I don't enjoy that from him. So, F you, Kazuchika. Number 7 now, and it's none other than, of course, one of my boys in wrestling, one of my little faves. It's Darby Allin. And every time I mention Darby Allin, I mention that I knew him before he was cool. I liked him before everyone else did, all the AEW fans. I got on that bandwagon quite late on, actually, towards the end of his Evolve run, but never mind, I got on there before the rest of you did. Unless you're an Evolve fan. Some of you probably are. Darby was the loser of the main event tag team match on Dynamite this week, but I found him the most captivating performer in the match. It was contested between two sets of TNT Championship tournament opponents, Cody and Darby on one side, Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears on the other side, and Darby just took so many bumps, but he also dished out a lot of pain as well. I'm talking, of course, about the bit where he shimmied up that pillar and then jumped off and did the coffin drop onto the heels on the outside. That was really cool. But also the most interesting thing he did in this match was, I guess, the exploration of his relationship with Cody. Cody was all fired up. He was being, I'm Cody Rhodes, I'm an American boy, you gave it all away, I'll take. Darby's just sitting in the corner like, I don't want to be here. Cody's like, come on, dude, let's do it. And Darby's like, nah, what? And then after the match, because Darby was frustrated he lost, he just laid Cody out. And that builds tension. And I think they're probably going to meet in the second round of this tournament. I hope so anyway, even though Shawn Spears really needs a win, I can't see him getting one in the first round of that tournament, because Cody and Darby need to meet in the second round. Let's go to Pro Wrestling Noah now and talk about a member of their junior division, Daisuke Harada, who is number 6 this week. And he's kind of an interesting one because he's a junior, he's a bit of a star of the juniors division. 3-time juniors champion, I think, as well, but he's not a typical junior style wrestler. He's not really much of a high flyer. He's more like a Shingo or a Gulak. He's more ground based. In fact, Harada specifically is a lot more strike based, and he's quite interesting to watch at times. He had a match for the title on Pro Wrestling Noah's latest show, and I'm just going to pause for a second and not really talk about that match because there was another match on this show that I have to mention. And it was recommended to me by Matthew, Botchamania Matthew, our friend and king of the IWC. And he was wrong. He was wrong in my opinion. Actually, I don't think he's watched it either, but he was excited, and he shouldn't be. The reason is that this main event match, it was Fujita versus Go Shiozaki, sucked, in my opinion. It went about 56 minutes, maybe longer, and the first 30 minutes were a stare down. They stood in the ring for half an hour and stared at each other. I watched this match first, then I went back and watched the co-main event, the secondary main event, which was the match with Harada in. And by contrast, I was like, what? That match was still like 27 minutes or something, but by contrast, I was like, they're moving at the speed of light, this is insane. F that main event, Fujita and Shiozaki, what were you playing at? I've been well and truly trolled, I have, and I've got no shame in that, because I hated it. Anyway, Harada's match obviously was alright, pretty fun to watch, one of the better matches this week in my opinion, probably my second or third favourite match of this week, and Harada lost, but that's okay, because it's enough to get him some points on Wrestlers of the Week. I hated that Vegeta match, sucked. I'm still going on about it, yeah I am. Sorry Harada, well done, some points for you. Vegeta match absolutely sucked. Number 5 this week, Shotzi Blackheart from NXT. Great performance in the second chance gauntlet match, the winner of which will get into that NXT Women's #1 Contender ladder match, but unfortunately it wasn't Shotzi. She was the hero of this match, but she wasn't the winner. Let's just go through what happened in this match. First, she eliminated Deonna Purrazzo with a senton, then she got Jaya Lee to tap out, then she got Aaliyah to tap out, then she beat Kaden Carter as well, and then finally, she fell to dirty Dakota Kai. In many ways, Shotzi is a bit similar to Darby Allin actually, in that she's an alternative looking, pretty cool character, came from Evolve as well, and seems to have a lot of promise behind her in the early stages of her career on a wider platform. So in her case NXT, in Darby's case AEW. And Shotzi was great here, man. She was really, really good. In fact, I think I agree with the ultimate decision not to have her win this match, because then she gets another chance in the future probably if they follow that storyline through. Dakota needs to be in that match because of her rivalry with Tegan Nox and everything, but Shotzi really got a chance to shine here and she made the most of it. And it wasn't even like, I mean, if Dakota had beaten her clean as a whistle, that would have been fine as well, because she'd been through like 4 or 5 other women before that. But the fact that Dakota needed help as well from Raquel Gonzalez, her henchwoman on the outside, just makes Shotzi's defeat all the more unjust, and I think in turn makes her all the more popular, and people will want to see her get her own back in the future. At least that's what I want to see. Let me know what you think as well. Number 4 this week, don't you forget about your God. Tom and Ross have ruined that song forever and ever and ever, and I used to quite like that. It's Keith Lee, who successfully defended his North American Championship in the main event of NXT this week, defeating Damian Priest and his old frenemy, Dominik Dijakovic. It wasn't my favourite match of Keith Lee's run, or even my favourite match of his since the beginning of his big push at Survivor Series, but I think that he did a good job here. It wasn't like an amazing match. It wasn't as good as his one-on-one matches against Dijakovic, but it was still alright. I thought that the interplay between all 3 of them was good. Damian Priest trying to be sort of more opportunistic and sneaky, Dijakovic just being a big terrifying ripped monster, and Keith Lee being a big monster in his own right, a different sort of monster, and one who was strong enough to retain his title. I'm enjoying it. I think he's a good fit for that championship. I would like to see him move on to bigger and better things in the future, but for now, I'm not going to forget about Keith, and don't you either. God, that was cheesy as balls, that. Next up, in at number 3 this week, we have one half of the best friends, and his name is Trent Barreta. Trent? Let's just say Trent. I've been a fan of Trent for a long time. I enjoyed him in New Japan when he was one half of Roppongi Vice alongside Rocky Romero. I enjoyed him in PWG from little bits and pieces I could glean from those PWG shows, even though they're quite hard to get a hold of. Well, hard to get a hold of unless you wait a long time. And also, I'm a fan of Trent when he's in AEW now, but I feel like his spotlight has been slightly reduced by that star-studded roster. And also by the fact, of course, that he's in a stable with like the hottest thing in AEW, which is, of course, Orange Cassidy. And Chuck Taylor's often more overtly funny than Trent, although Trent can be funny as well. But he's kind of the straight man of the best friends. So I'm delighted that this week he got a chance to show what he can do in the ring and put on a really good singles match. That match, of course, was against Kenny Omega, a match that Trent was never ever going to win, but they did a really good job of making it seem like he was about to win. You know, he was pushing Kenny really close towards the end of this match. It almost reached that 20-minute time limit before Trent finally fell victim to the One-Winged Angel. But yeah, really good performance from Trent. Even in defeat, he looked really good. I think his stock is now higher than it would have been before this match, and I've got no complaints. Solid week for Trent. Well done, Trenty boy. Trent, big Trent. I wonder if Trent feels like the word Trent is stopped. You know, when you say a certain word so many times, it just stops making sense. I wonder if Trent is pleased with his decision to leave New Japan and work for AEW. I suspect he might be, because, you know, it's a lighter schedule and it's against less hard-hitting opponents sometimes. I don't want to, you know, say that everyone in New Japan hits really hard, but some of them do. And I think that he probably enjoys it as well, just because he's got more of a chance to demonstrate his comedic chops. I think, anyway. I'm just rampantly speculating there, but I hope he's doing all right. I'll be honest with you, I needed to fill time because I hadn't said much about Trent's match, because it was just a good match. Welcome to the behind the scenes of Wrestlers of the Week, everyone. Next up, let's go back to Pro Wrestling Noah and talk about Yoshinari Ogawa, a 50-odd-year-old legend of their junior division. If you're not familiar with Ogawa, his nickname is Rat Boy. He is sneaky, he uses sneaky submissions and roll-ups and that sort of thing. He's a little dirty rat. He's a little rat, which is great. Rat Boy, great gimmick, love it. Absolutely love it. And it's probably one of those gimmicks that gets better as he gets older, because he can be more wily and crafty and more of a veteran. I think it's great. He's the current junior champion. It's always funny when an older guy's the junior champion, because you're like, excuse me, you're the junior champion, you're 53 years old. But Ogawa's pulling it off. And he's pulling it off because he continues to have really good matches well into his middle age. I mean, he had one of my favourite matches this week against Harada, which I was talking about before. Part of which I enjoyed because I hated that Fujita match, that Fujita and Go Shiozaki match. 30 minutes of a stare down, 30. And you know what? I didn't even mention the match itself, right? So it's in a basically empty arena, as many wrestling shows are these days. Fair enough, can't complain about that though, given the circumstances. But what happens next, right? They go up the stairs, they go up to the balcony, Fujita threatens to throw Shiozaki off, and he's kind of going, it's very lazy looking. Then he just stops, and then he just walks down the steps. And then they both walk back to the ring and continue grappling on the floor. And some people loved this match. I did not love this match. At one stage, Vegeta drinks mouthwash to then spit it at Shiozaki's face. But he drinks mouthwash and you see him go like, don't be putting mouthwash in your mouth. Not mouthwash, what am I talking about? I've made a mistake because I'm ranting too much. He drinks hand wash. Don't be putting hand wash in your mouth. Mouthwash, probably fine. I'm out of breath because I hated that match so much. Ogawa's match, lovely stuff. Great stuff from Ogawa, loved that. Loved that from Rat Boy. Limb work throughout the match, you know, trying to be sneaky, trying to wear down his more strike-heavy opponent, and eventually picking up the victory in the end. That's how you do it. Ogawa shows you how to do it. That's how you do it, Vegeta. You don't stare your opponent down for 30 minutes. Half an hour of nothing in a wrestling match. And finally, number one on my wrestler of the week, it's none other than, and I think in getting this as well, he's actually tied Will Ospreay for the record number of Wrestlers of the Week awards just for an individual week with 7. It's Kenny Omega. Yeah, I mentioned before that Kenny Omega had a really good match with Trent. It was quite hard hitting in a way. There were a lot of strikes thrown and a lot of different reversals and stuff, but the most sickening bump was taken by Kenny Omega. First, it looked like the most sickening bump was dished out by Kenny when he gave Trent that like deadlift German on the outside. But no, that wasn't the worst bump. Trent got him back with a casual German off the top rope and Kenny landed on his head. I hope he's okay. It looked like it absolutely sucked, but he seemed fine and he carried on the match. And I mentioned it before, but once again, loved the way that this match was pushed right towards the end, right towards the 20-minute mark. I loved the way that Kenny just kind of caught him out of nowhere with a V-trigger, then the One-Winged Angel, and that was it. And Chuck Taylor knew on the outside. As soon as Kenny hit the One-Winged Angel, Chuck's just like, well, that's over then. Even before the ref had begun his count, that's really good stuff as well to get the finisher over. And Kenny Omega's selling is just something to behold. Look at the way he sprung up from that pile driver like RVD in his prime. It's insane. Really good performance from Kenny, fully deserving of the 10 points, and he is my wrestler of the week. Now let's take a look at that lovely league table, and Kenny Omega has jumped right out in front, whoa, way ahead of Tanaka and Jon Moxley in 2nd and 3rd place. A little bit lower down, we'll see the NXT North American Champion level with the likes of Takahashi and Okada is Keith Lee, which is a really good effort from the big man. That's the league table. And let's run the outro. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. It's been a decent week given the circumstances, but next week is going to be huge. WrestleMania week. I'm sure there'll be a lot of big performances to talk about. Hopefully there's some stuff going on in other promotions as well, but we'll just have to keep an eye on that. And yeah, I can't wait. You know, WrestleMania has been, you know, put on in incredible weird circumstances this year, but hopefully there are some good wrestling moments to look forward to and some good points to allocate next week. It won't be a double episode, I should mention that. It'll just be your standard kind of top 10 wrestlers of the week because there's just not enough shows going on this year over WrestleMania weekend. But never mind, we'll make the best of it. Hope you're all doing well out there and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you very soon.